Oh, dragons. What is it about these beasts that we always find ourselves coming back to? Maybe it's the desire to seek out the most precious answers in life. Perhaps it's the novelty of striking down a beast beyond any man's control. Or maybe it's 'cause dragons are badass. The point I'm trying to say here is dragons are awesome, no questions asked, and have been a staple of human imagination since the invention of art and culture. Or I guess the invention of dragons themselves. Everyone loves a good dragon. Whether as a ferocious enemy or a powerful ally, dragons seemingly continue to capture the hearts and imaginations of men for many years to come. One animated trilogy among these is one that aspires to breathe appreciation towards the mythic beasts of yore, as well as capture the hearts of children and adults alike. How to Train Your Dragon. Based on the book series by Cressida Cowell, How to Train Your Dragon is an animated film trilogy that began all the way back on March 26, 2010, and was created by Dreamworks Studios. You know, the guys that made Shrek, Boss Baby, and Trolls? Oh yeah, and a little movie called Kung Fu Panda. To tell the story of How to Train Your Dragon, not the books, I'll get to those in a minute, but the movie and franchise, we have to trace this all to two men. Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois. DeBlois? These two are most famous for directing Disney's Lilo and Stitch, and after that movie's success, the two directors went their separate ways. Sanders would stay at Disney, while DeBlois would work on a documentary called Haima. Haima? Am I pronouncing that right? Whatever. 2 years after that film's release, the How to Train Your Dragon books caught the eye of a Dreamworks producer, Bonnie Arnold, and following the success of Over the Hedge, the next project she selected to be made would be How to Train Your Dragon. I can only imagine the pitch meeting for this trilogy was a little something like this. Okay guys, listen up. I got the perfect idea for a movie. It's gonna be our next Shrek. You won't believe this. So, what's the one thing that kids love? Dragons. What's the second thing that kids love? Vikings. Put them together, Vikings riding dragons. Think about it. Oh yeah, and we based this idea off some kids book that nobody reads for some reason. In 2007, Sanders was working with Disney on a movie called American Dog, which would have involved an actor dog going on a road trip across the country. When executives attempted to change the story, Sanders was cut off from the project and ultimately left Disney altogether, and ultimately American Dog was changed to be the 2008 film Bolt. After this fallout, Sanders and his dynamic partner would reunite and take the mantle of directors halfway through development of the movie. During these stages, How to Train Your Dragon was more loyal to the books, having a more sweet and whimsical vibe, and was generally targeted to a more younger audience. But now with a change in tone and two Disney traders leading the helm, How to Train Your Dragon would see its debut at Universal City on March 21st, and in theaters 5 days later to unanimous praise from critics and viewers alike, earning almost $500 million at the box office, more than twice its $165 budget, and spawning a franchise that still lingers to this day. I saw 2 of the trilogy, with the first I remember thoroughly enjoying as a kid. I liked the action sequences, but I never looked back on these movies growing up. I even had a tie-in game on Xbox, which was just a fighting game, but hey, at least that had cool customization. I saw the second movie when it came out and always thought it was better than the first, but like the first one, I haven't seen it in a while. Well, until today, of course. I wanted to see the third movie when it came out, but I was hanging out in Vegas during that time, and the idea just left my head altogether. Back on topic, out of Dreamworks' best movies, the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy feels like some of the most underappreciated out of Dreamworks' catalog, along with a handful of other films. Everyone loves these movies and talks about them, but in my opinion, that's not enough. Today, I'm gonna do yet another full retrospective, this time of the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, and see how they stand as some of DreamWorks' best movies. Now when I say full retrospective, I don't fully mean all of How to Train Your Dragon. For this, I will be looking exclusively at the movies, 1, 2, and Hidden World. I won't be looking at the TV shows, of which I've seen the pilot for 1, or the games, or the shorts, or even those live stage shows I've seen ads for. And much like how I reviewed the Tac trilogy on separate emulators, I'll be watching these movies on separate streaming services, because I'm just too afraid to pirate movies and only the second one is available on Netflix. If you like what I'm doing, feel free to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of when I upload new content. Once again, I'm close to making a Steven Universe review, which I really want to release by the way, but I want to release that at 1,000 subs, so getting me to that milestone helps me out a lot, and also generally speaking, it makes me nice to know how supportive you guys are. Hold on, I gotta get my Dragon Soda ready for this. Ugh! Tastes like Shrek's ass! Ugh. Had a hint of... Much better. So the question is, does How to Train Your Dragon hold up well as a definitive Dreamworks classic? Are the movies really any good? And most importantly, how does one train a dragon? Let's find out. This is a full retrospective of the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. Chapter 1. To Train a Dragon. As said earlier, How to Train Your Dragon began life as a book series starting in 2003 by author Cressida Cowell. Well, there was this one book about Hiccup the Seasick that came before, but still. The series ran for about 12 issues, all telling the tale of a Viking named Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III, taming a mighty dragon and becoming a hero. The final book was released in 2015, 1 year after the second movie titled How to Fight a Dragon's Fury. And of these stories, only 4 have been adapted to film. I read online that while they were working on the project, Dreamworks was actually encouraged to differentiate from the books, as a way for the team to offer their own vision of the story. So for the sake of this video, I'll be accepting the How to Train Your Dragon movies as their own thing, but I will tell you that Toothless was a hell of a lot smaller in the books, and Astrid didn't exist. Anyway, the movie paid off, releasing on March 26, 2010 to unanimous critical praise, even gaining a 98% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, grossing $500 million at the box office and spawning a multi-million-dollar franchise of shows and toys. I mean, shit, the first movie was so popular that one of my childhood friends dressed up as Toothless one Halloween while I was in elementary school. You see the kid with the devil mask? That's me. I look as stupid as I sound. I also said that I loved this movie as a kid. I thought it was the coolest shit I've ever seen. I even had the tie-in game, which I thought sucked, but at least it had cool customization. So with all that out of the way, how does this movie hold up today? Why don't we find out? This is How to Train Your Dragon. So the movie, as well as most of this trilogy, opens with narration introducing us to the Viking Isle of Berk, a 7th-generation home in a world inhabited by...
dragons! Loads of dragons all over the place!
Dragons come swooping down upon the Vikings of Berk, stealing their sheep and burning their buildings to ash, while the Vikings do what they do best: beat the ever-loving shit out of the scaly c***s. This narrative intro also introduces us to our protagonist named... Hold on. Our protagonist named... Sorry, I think I have something in my... Something about this dragon potion is giving me the... This is Hiccup, played by Jay Baruchel, son of the Berk chieftain Stoic the Vast, played by Gerard This is Sparta Butler, and apprentice to the one-handed Gobber, played by Craig Ferguson, along with the Viking apprentices, the strong-willed Snotlout, played by Jonah Hill, the Fat Fish Legs, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, the twins Toughnut and Roughnut, played by TJ Miller and Kristen Wiig respectively, and, Astrid, played by America Ferrera. Original names, Dreamworks. Now this introduction is very well done, introducing us to the action, the characters, the dangerous world of Berk, the struggle of Hiccup, and the dragons that inhabit it, such as the bird-like Natterhead, the armored Gronkle, the twin-headed Ziffleback, and the monstrous Nightmare. And the score enhances this scene really, really well. Definitely a great introduction to the film and this franchise. Hiccup is generally not well liked by other Vikings, citing his weak stature and is generally seen as a little bitch, as well as a bad omen wherever he goes. So he desires to gain his acceptance among the clan and the approval of his father. So he builds a catapult and spots a dragon and he fells it, but is confronted by another dragon and then saved by his father. He tells of the success to Stoic, to which Stoic tells his son that he brings disaster wherever he goes, and that he's not ready to kill a dragon. So Hiccup sneaks out to check the beast he slew. Meanwhile, Stoic tells that they need to find the dragon hideout before the winter sets in. So he prepares and he discusses with Gobber about his son. Stoic loves his son very much. He wants his son to change, but he doesn't believe he can kill a dragon. To which Gobber has a suggestion for him. Meanwhile, Hiccup takes a walk in the woods to check on his prey, which leads to him discovering he captured a Night Fury, one of the rarest and deadliest dragon species. Hiccup decides to finish the beast, but one look in the eyes, as the creature accepts death, Hiccup bails out, freeing the dragon instead, who gives him his, deepest thanks. And then it flies off. After this event, Stoic and Hiccup have a chat, to which Stoic tells his son that it's time for dragon training. Hiccup wants to bail, but because he doesn't want to disappoint, he accepts the deal and begins dragon training. After this montage, he checks upon the Night Fury, seeing it struggling, to which he later gives him the name Toothless. What follows is a mostly character-driven story, as Hiccup learns about other dragons and in turn develops his relationship with Toothless, which I think is fine because this way Hiccup learns his knowledge of taming dragons with Toothless and uses it in the arena, effectively earning his place among the Vikings. So why don't we elaborate further on that? Honestly, after not seeing this movie in ages, I can safely affirm that How to Train Your Dragon is pretty great. Maybe not as great as when I was younger, but now, I still think this is a pretty strong film, and a good start off to this franchise. For one, the animation is stunning. One thing that I, and probably other people appreciate about these movies, is that the titular dragons are portrayed more like wild animals, rather than the wise wisdom seekers or the conniving villains we all come to know them as. Which is totally fine, there's nothing wrong with portraying dragons this way, but How to Train Your Dragon, I feel, offers a unique interpretation to the mythical beast. Yeah, there are other media that portray dragons as animals, but still. Every animal acts differently in the wild, and the dragons are no exception. Some are cat-like or bird-like, while others are slow and cumbersome. In a way, these quirks add a sense of dynamicity and realism to the creatures. Is that a real word? Dynamicity? Whatever. This allows the dragons like Toothless to express such emotion and personality in a believable way. Plus, unless they were all voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch, they totally dodged the bullet by not giving the dragons voices. Because I think they express enough personality and emotion without using words. Plus, if they did talk, the movie would probably be less tolerable. Ugh.
I ate the bug. I love you.
My favorite dragon in this movie isn't Toothless, though I do like him, but the Natterhead because it feels like the most bird-like or dinosaur-esque, like a raptor with wings. Also, the Gronkle is pretty cool. I like the armored look and the buzzing wings, and I dig a lot of the dragon designs in the rest of these movies. Toothless is another good example of a good dragon design. He's like an axolotl crossed with a panther crossed with a stingray with the heart of a golden retriever and the face of Stitch. It's like a simple combination of cute and badass. In fact, I hear the Stitch face was intentional.
Fun fact, did you know that the hesitant twitch where Toothless lets Hiccup touch his face was actually an animation glitch, but Dreamworks loved it so much that they left it in the film. Well, son of a glitch, that sure did the trick.
Aside from the dragons, this movie just looks beautiful 12 years later. The flying scenes are amazing and give a good sense of weight, and they're also pretty to look at, like the flying scene with Astrid. The movements are all jumpy and feel natural and expressive, and the lighting is gorgeous. Apparently they got a Coen Brothers cinematographer on the lighting, and yeah, it pretty much makes the movie look realistic. I think my favorite environments in this movie is the forest because of the lighting. It varies between the smoky fog and the beautiful sunset colors. I also don't mind the art style in this movie, unlike Rise of the Guardians. I think the character designs look fantastic and catch a good blend between stylized and realistic. They all kind of remind me of Skylanders or World of Warcraft, especially the adult Vikings who are like very tall dwarves with their big ass bodies and bushy beards. I also want to commend the sound design in this movie, as well as the other ones in general, specifically the dragon noises because they're all varied and give the dragons a sense of personality and amplifies their animal-like nature. Some sound a bit bird-like and others sound titanious. Is that a real word? Is it titanious or titanus? Whatever. Of course, Toothless has the best sounds in this movie.
Fun fact, did you know that the noises made by the terrible terror creatures were contributed by a chihuahua named Paco?
Speaking of sounds, the soundtrack. It was composed by Dreamworks veteran John Powell, who composed the music for Ants, Road to El Dorado, Kung Fu Panda, and even Shrek. The music is comprised of sweeping Celtic-sounding tunes, and it's, in a word, fantastic, and is always the best part of these movies. It doesn't rely on pop culture music like Shrek or Megamind because the original instrumentation enhances every scene with such beautiful, melodic tunes, especially the ones that lack dialogue like Hiccup bonding with Toothless. I can't play a song because of copyright reasons, but man, it sells it all. The action, the danger, the bond between man and beast, and the sheer euphoria of being on the back of a large dragon. I always bash orchestral music for being unmemorable, but goddamn, this is an exception. Probably one of my favorite animated scores all around. John Powell, well done, man. Another thing I can appreciate about this movie is the writing and the story. Like I said, this movie has a certain flow and pace to it. Basically, it's a mainly character-driven story as we follow Hiccup bonding with Toothless and learning that the dragons aren't as what Vikings have you believe. I think this works because through learning and bonding with Toothless, Hiccup discovers the secret to befriending dragons, and that makes for a compelling setup. It gives the movie a feeling of exploration. Hiccup and Toothless' relationship is akin to a man and his dog, or Lilo and Stitch. You got the loner who is not well liked because of his differences, and you have the being of mass destruction who turns out to be good deep down. Their moments together in this movie are adorable, and their growth together I feel is powerful, thanks in part to the fact that some of these scenes lack dialogue and are all carried by the amazing score, which I think resonates more emotion. Also, seeing Hiccup discovering the dragon's untold behavior is also real nice. It evokes a feeling of progression and discovery, and overall a compelling way to develop his character, because we get to see it. Through seeing his failures and his new secrets of the dragons, he earns the respect of his Viking colleagues and his dragon friend. Like, he earned it. He earned the respect he wanted among this clan. He earned the ability to ride a dragon. Oh yeah, and I also like the scenes of Hiccup talking with his dad Stoic. Deep down, you know Stoic believes in his son, and so it's moments like these that give Stoic a bit more humanity to his character. Even at the big emotional blowout, you can tell he at least has some sort of regret. If I had any complaints about this movie, it's that the story feels a little too simple. Not trying to insult the movie or anything, but I don't think there's much for me to talk about in terms of the story. But this paves the way for the other movie's themes of growth and leadership, so, The characters are also pretty nice. I think the characters have solid chemistry with each other, but one problem with these characters is that they have some unmemorable names. Like, I often sort of forgot the names of these characters because they're just some compound words, which is totally fine, but these names just sort of bleed into the background. Toothless is the main dragon of the trilogy. He's playful, curious, and huggable, but also threatening when he needs to be. His moments of interaction in these movies are very adorable, of course.
Fun fact, did you know that when animating Toothless, the team watched a shitload of cat videos? They also took inspirational movements from horses and salamanders. Would have been a catastrophe if Toothless was animated like a doll.
Hiccup is the human protagonist of the trilogy. He's quirky and curious, much like his dragon friend, and like I said, I dig his character progression, especially in the second movie, which I'll get to later. Stoic the Vast is the chieftain of the Viking clan. He's, well, stoic and battle-hardened, yet he's also shown to care for his own family, especially in the second film, and he actually has some of the best lines in the movie.
When you carry this axe, you carry all of us with you.
Spoken like a true Viking, folks. Oh yeah, and there's also a couple of scenes of him going on his boat, I guess. There's also other characters like Gobber, the one-handed weaponsmith and dragon fighting teacher. He's definitely one of my favorite human characters because he's got enough personality and a couple of good lines throughout these movies. Astrid, which is like 2 letters off from Asterix and Obelix. A stone-cold female warrior who grows jealous of Hiccup's attention. She's also one of my favorites because she gets the most attention and interactions with Hiccup, and has this little character arc about jealousy or something, which I find to be compelling. But through Hiccup showing her the magic of dragon riding, she starts to warm up to him, and she's more supportive and helping to Hiccup in the other movies. Plus they get together in the end, so that's pretty cool. Snotlout, one of the celebrity side characters who's very brash. Rough Nut and Tough Nut, the 2 twins that bicker even in the midst of battle. Fishlegs, the fat nerd Viking who's probably my favorite out of the celebrity side characters because I like his voice and he actually got a few good laughs out of me, so good for him.
I'm okay! West okay!
I enjoy the interactions between these characters and how they view Hiccup, though they do get a little annoying in the later movies. There are also the dragons, like the Natterhead, an aviary-like beast with fast ground speed and spikes that shoot out like a porcupine. The Gronkel, a heavy armored dragon. The twin-headed Ziffelback, where one head breathes gas and the other head lights the gas. And the Nightmare, a dragon that breathes lava and has a tendency to light itself on fire.
Lit himself on fire.
One dragon I forgot to mention was the Terrible Terror, the small but deadly dragon with, like I said, the sounds of a chihuahua. It's pretty cute though, I will say that. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that I like the groundedness of this universe. Despite the fantasy setting, these movies have a sense of groundedness and explains a couple of questions one might have. Like for example, the dragons breathe fire by some kind of gas like juice, so that's a pretty cool detail. Also, the voice acting is great. Initially when I rewatched this movie, the only voice I didn't like was Hiccup, and that's because I always thought he was like a 10-year-old boy. Like, no offense to Jay Baruchel, but is this the voice you would want to hear out of a kid?
Oh man, I should have gone first. Cause I was thinking, you know, we have a surplus of dragon-fighting Vikings, but I don't want to fight dragons.
No, it sounds more like something out of a back alley crack addict, if anything else. Or some nasally nerd. I feel like that Scottish accent he did as a joke would have kinda been a better fit.
Excuse me, barmaid. I'm afraid you brought me the wrong offspring. Extra guts and glory on the side. This is a talking fish bone.
Of course, now I know Hiccup was like 15 in this movie, and the voice later grew on me, and I found it more fitting in the later films.
Fun fact, did you know that Hiccup is Jay Baruchel's first and only animated voiceover role, and that he finds voice acting more effective because he isn't cornered by all these cameras and shit. Yeah, I don't watch the stuff he's in, so maybe he's better off becoming a voice actor or something.
Everyone else is good, the celebrity voice cast is alright, though like I said, they do get a bit more annoying in the later films. Christopher Mintz-Plasse is my favorite of the celebrity voices, and perhaps my favorite performance in this movie has to go to Stoic, voiced by Gerard "This is Sparta" Butler. He speaks in a Scottish accent, in fact a lot of the Vikings speak in a Scottish accent, and he speaks in this big, bodacious delivery, it's just really good, especially when he delivers his best lines.
Stop. Every time you step outside, disaster falls. Winter is almost here, and I have an entire village to feed.
This isn't a joke, Hiccup.
Oh, why can't you follow the simplest orders? Oh, yeah, many things, Hiccup. But a dragon killer is not one of them.
I was hoping for this. Just wait till you spill a nadder's guts for the first time and mount your first grunkle head on a spear. All those years of the worst Viking Burke has ever seen. We finally have something to talk about.
And yeah, overall, How to Train Your Dragon is a great film. The animation is stellar, the growth and bond of Hiccup and Toothless is fantastic, the music is amazing, and the story overall is good in spite of its simplicity. But like all great stories, it must come to an end. So over the course of the story, Hiccup has grown to become somewhat of a celebrity in Berk. Every Viking, including the students, starts lathering him in attention, all while he learns about the dragon behavior and successfully manages to fully ride Toothless, much to the suspicion and dismay of Astrid. So his father comes in one night to talk to Hiccup about his accomplishments, to which he gives him a helmet made from his mother's breastplate. Dirty work, Stoic. At the 50-minute mark, after impressing the Vikings for so long, he gets chosen by the Elder to kill a dragon, much to the anger of Astrid. So he decides to leave with Toothless, but then Astrid finds out his dirty, black sausage secret. Secret. Dirty black secret. Bruh. So he has to convince her that Toothless is totally awesome by giving her a near-death experience. Flying her around. Eventually things calm down and she starts to see the beauty of flying around on a dragon, and forgives Hiccup. But then all of a sudden Toothless takes them to the hiding place of the dragons, located in some abandoned mountain. There we see that the dragons seemingly function like a beehive, and we also see the big, bad, evil mega dragon that makes all others cower in fear.
Fun fact, did you know that Gloria from Madagascar makes a cameo in the movie? When Hiccup is being taken to the dragon nest, you could see the corpse of Gloria in the claws of a dragon. Yeah, that's what you get for those Madagascar movies.
Astrid suggests to tell Stoic, but Hiccup refuses to protect Toothless. So Astrid leaves, but not before giving him a punch and a kiss on the cheek. The next day, Hiccup prepares for his final challenge, against the fiery nightmare. When the beast approaches him, Hiccup drops his weapons and helmet and reveals the truth about the dragons, much to the disgust and anger of Stoic, and so all hell breaks loose. So Hiccup tries to escape the dragon, but then Toothless comes in and saves the day. But then Toothless is swarmed by the Vikings. Stoic then scolds Hiccup about his lying and his hatred towards the dragons, to which Hiccup says that the dragons are doing bad things out of necessity, and accidentally reveals the location of the dragon nest.
You throwing your lot in with them. You're not a Viking. You're not my son.
Damn, harsh words, Stoic. So after that fiasco, Stoic launches an all-out assault on the dragon hideout with Toothless' senses leading the charge.
Lead us home, devil.
Hiccup sulks about what he's done and about how he wouldn't kill a dragon, but then afterwards he comes up with a plan that involves using the other dragons and his Viking friends. So he teaches the others how to train their dragons, and they set out to save Toothless.
When we crack this mountain open, all hell is gonna break loose.
Excuse me! What did you say?
So Stoic leads the charge upon the nest, bringing out the hundreds if not thousands of dragons, and then the big evil Mega Dragon, who unleashes a big fire upon the ships. Stoic and Gobber team up to distract the dragon, but then the heroes arrive atop other dragons. Talk about fighting fire with fire, am I right? The kids distract the dragon while Hiccup tries to rescue Toothless. These efforts, however, go exactly like how you think. The Mega Dragon hits Hiccup and Toothless, and they drown. Haha, just kidding. Stoic comes in to save Toothless, and I gotta say the way Stoic just dives in to save Toothless is kinda funny. Before Hiccup sets out to finish it, Stoic says he's sorry for everything he's done and begs him not to go. To which Hiccup says,
We're Vikings. It's an occupational hazard.
I'm proud to call you my son.
So now our dynamic Viking duo save Astrid and give the big-ass beast a run for his money, bringing out the monster's wings. They take it up to the dark clouds and blow him, as the Mega Dragon uses all his firepower to roast them. But then Toothless' handicap catches ablaze, and so with little time, they lure the Mega Dragon back to the surface. As the Mega Dragon prepares one last blaze, Toothless lights him up into his own little blaze of glory. But then Hiccup is hit by the tail and falls into the mouth of hell. As the ashes clear and the sky brightens, Stoic discovers Toothless lying, and so he mourns the loss of his son. He takes one look at Hiccup's body and, ta-da! He's still alive! Stoic thanks the dragon for saving most of his son, and so the next day Hiccup wakes up in his home with most of his body intact, which might take a while for him to get used to. He goes outside and sees that Berk is filled with dragons. Hiccup had done it. Plus, he totally gets the girl. And so, the movie ends with narration as Hiccup puts up his new equipment and flies off into the sky.